Jillian Pensavali.
Patrick, hi.
Hi, girl.
Hi.
I was so excited to watch a documentary kind of about art today.
I know, no murder.
Or like dead children.
Right, or any kind of abuse.
I know.
It was lovely.
Really, really great. Thank you, weird art people. What are we talking about today?
We're talking about Exit Through the Gift Shop.
Exit Through the Gift Shop. The documentary that I resisted watching forever because I thought I was going to hate it.
And the only true crime podcast to cover
I know.
Exit Through the Gift Shop.
And it's totally crimey.
It so is.
Normally, this is where we would play the promo for the movie, but the thing about the promo for this movie is that it's all title cards. So there's nothing, you would just be weird, like punk rock, like trendy music. So we'll just tell you that this is a movie about a guy who was making a documentary about like street artists, including the very famous Banksy, and then Banksy sort of decided to turn the cameras and make a documentary about this guy.
Right.
What's his name?
His name is Thierry.
The film is the story of what happened when this guy tried to make a documentary about me, but he was actually a lot more interesting than I am. So now the film is kind of about him. I mean, it's not Gone with the Wind, but there's probably a moral in there somewhere.
The first question I have on my paper is, can you please give us your first impressions of Thierry Guerrera?
Well, can I say one thing? Can I just say just a blanket thing before we continue? I enjoy this documentary. I like street art. Like, I'm down for it.
Samesies.
I grew up in New York, and there was a time where I knew skateboarders. So, like, I know about street art, you guys.
I was in love with skateboarders, by the way.
But what I resent about documentaries like this is that it's kind of like, is this an elaborate prank?
Right.
There's a shift in my brain as I'm watching it where I'm like, I don't want to get too invested because it's somewhere Banksy's laughing at me because he tricked me, and him and Shepard Fairey are like in on this together and they're out to get us.
Quick side story.
Oh my God.
Okay, so I texted you this today. We have an actual original Shepard Fairey hanging in our living room.
I like threw my phone and I was like, what?
And no, we're not rich and we aren't fancy art people, but we lived in Boston when Shepard Fairey was like really prolifically tagging the city.
Here at a random abandoned pizza shop in South Boston, Shepard Fairey strikes again. One of the greatest living artists tells us all to obey peace.
And one of the buildings he tagged in Boston had this like beautiful mural on it. I would walk past it every day on the way to work, and you know, one day, like, you know, weeks later, you'll come to find out in the documentary that, like, the thing about street art is that it falls apart, it breaks down, people steal it. It was just falling off, it was peeling off the side of this building. And my husband, Steve, just, like, ripped off this part of it. I mean, he texted me to find out about the ethics. He's like, do you think I should? I was like, do it. Someone else is going to do it if you don't.
Yeah.
Shepard Fairey doesn't give a shit.
No. And
so,
he defaced property.
Exactly.
As someone who's like, I think what he does is really cool. Like,
yeah,
that's at the core of it. But Steve, of course, ripped it in the most perfect way. It looks like you paid $100,000 for it. It's awesome. We're gonna post a picture of it.
Yeah, we'll put a picture of it on the website.
It's awesome.
Look at this. It's amazing as usual. It's absolutely amazing. Every little square inch of it.
So it opens with Thierry Guerrera. And it's just about, he's like this just like French dude who, of course, very conveniently always has a camera and is filming his entire life.
I don't know how the video camera came to my hand, but I know the moment came inside my hand. I couldn't let it down, ever. It was like more than any drugs to anybody. It was obsession.
And the thing about Thierry is that he is the ultimate documentarian. I mean, everything. There's like a montage and it's like Thierry taking a piss and like he filmed everything. Which
You don't
want
to give us like a 30-second rundown about like what your take on this dude?
Well, I mean, I think he's ridiculous. I think he's just it's just like, is there anything more self-indulgent than you recording yourself taking a piss in your toilet? Like
totally.
that's not art.
I was filming and filming myself filming. It didn't stop. It just didn't stop.
And then it's like, you know, he's stalking celebrities and it's like Leno and Shaq and Oasis and
I was trying to figure out who that British guy was.
Oasis.
Okay.
It was Nolan Liam Gallagher.
He like meets him on the sidewalk somewhere.
Why don't you go and film someone else?
Yeah, I do.
Hey?
I do.
Why don't you go and do it now?
Because it's not every day that I see.
And of course, like the Gallaghers don't take any shit from each other, especially, but they don't take it from anybody else.
My
either.
favorite part of this whole thing, though, is like in the very beginning when we meet his wife.
I know.
Because you look at her and she is just like dutiful. And
Yeah.
she's definitely like, you can tell that she spends her time putting up with his bullshit.
And wrangling him. He's a child. He's a kid with like a beard and long hair and wears a stupid hat.
And he's probably super fun to be around, but like you can tell that she's just like, what? Every morning she wakes up and she's like, what crazy shit is going to happen today?
Yeah. No, and also get that goddamn camera out of my face for 4 seconds.
Even taking pictures, he would do it like, you know, like he was using even the picture camera like he would use a video camera. I was pretty much obsessed. He filmed constantly tapes and tapes and tapes.
They also own a vintage clothing store. This is my favorite part. Is like,
Oh my God, yeah.
they own a vintage clothing store, and he's like, I don't know. I take a shirt for $50. I buy for $50. I sell it for $5,000. I rich.
I used to take things that when the sewing was different, I call it designer. And I put the price that is $400. So from $50, sometime I could make $5,000.
Speaking of ripping people off, let's talk about art.
Okay.
Okay, so in 1999, he takes his camera and he goes on a trip to France. Now, indulge me for 1 second. This man seems to have absolutely no problem just ditching his family for extended periods of time.
Well, it's for the sake of the art, Patrick. He's got to go where the camera leads him.
So what happens on this trip to France?
So here's the thing. So we talk about and to several artists in this. Shepard Fairey, who is also known as the Obey Giant. You guys know he did the Andre the Giant thing with Obey, and the Obama Hope image. That was all Shepard Fairey. And Banksy, of course, which like needs no introduction.
Yeah.
But Space Invader was, do you remember seeing Space Invader
I do.
work around the city?
It's one of those things where I feel like I don't know. I think I remember it, but I don't know if I remember it just because I know about it.
Yeah. So Space Invader is someone who would take the old, like the colored parts of the Rubik's Cube and make the actual like old Space Invader video game looking aliens and just put them all around cities all over the world.
Yeah.
So Terry's like, oh, Space Invader is my cousin.
Conveniently, this guy is his cousin. Guys, there's a lot of questions about the authenticity of this movie.
So many questions.
Yeah.
So I filmed him. It was kind of fun because he was like doing some tile, very small, and put it in on top of couple building. And I thought he was really nice to put some stuff that you love, something that you want to express yourself, and put it outside, and people can see it.
The thing is, this is where we start to see Terry falling in love with street art.
Yeah.
And he is talking about how, like, he's following all through Space Invader. He's meeting all these different people. Their names, of course, are crazy, like Andre and Zeus and whatever.
Right.
Andre's not a crazy name.
I was going to say, wait.
He starts to say that he starts to see a gallery outside.
I like to capture those people because I thought it was nice what they were doing. And they really believe it. You know, they really loved it.
And so what he's talking about how like he loves the danger of it. He loves the aspect that they might get arrested. He loves being out all night, running around town, like videoing these guys. And so you see him sort of getting drawn into this world.
Yeah, because a lot of it has to be done at night. And it's also interesting to see how much of it is done during the day, where it's like how it's sort of a
Right.
little statement on how people in big cities just really don't give a shit about what's happening
Or
around
Disneyland.
them. Or Disneyland, which we'll get to. But this whole documentary is basically like a commercial for how cool street art is.
And it is so cool.
It's so cool. And they have like the cameras that, whatever.
Yeah.
But my favorite thing was when we meet Shepard Fairey in this, and he's just on the floor at Kinko's.
When I came with the camera and I started filming. So how long you been doing this?
10.5 years.
Oh yeah? Yeah. My God. It's a lot of paper.
What do you do?
I film.
So Shepard Fairey, with his like perfect River Phoenix face,
I know, he's
and
so
his
cute.
like James Franco lips, and like, but there's nothing more 2000s in the entire world than like a famous street artist on his hands and knees at Kinko's.
Right. I mean, and these things are like gigantic. They're not
Yeah.
like a couple inches by a couple inches. It's like 10 feet by 10 feet. And he's printing out all the things. And there's nobody at Kinko's that's like, hey, man, like what?
No, Kinko's was where you would go to steal a stapler
I know.
and like a handful of paper clips.
Yeah, just make sure you have the card in, the time card, so that they don't get 30 seconds of their precious time stolen.
So what did you do here? You don't know? Oh, you knew the guy.
Funny looking.
Oh yeah, you didn't know?
No, I didn't know.
Do you think he's dead or?
Oh, he's dead, yeah.
Yeah.
exactly.
And he's also like, oh, you don't have to like blur my face or
Right,
like,
totally. He's like, I'm Shepard
this is
fucking
who I
Fairey.
am. Like, he's
Yeah.
totally cool with
Yeah.
that.
Now the idea now is that he's gonna follow Shepard Fairey around,
Right.
right? And so who do we meet? Who does Shepard Fairey introduce us to?
His amazing girlfriend or significant other.
No, it's his wife.
His wife.
She has the same last name. It's either his wife or his sister.
Or his mother.
She's like 22 years old. I love her. What does she have to say about her man?
Look, there's one rule. There's one rule in the Fairey household, okay? If you're not home by 2:00, you have to call.
And if you don't,
You get beat and you sleep on the couch. Yes.
2:00, if he's going to be out past 2:00, he needs to call at 2.
Okay, I make him.
Otherwise, he gets beat and he sleeps on the couch.
I'm gonna
Yes.
institute that rule in this Fairey household.
Did you workshop that one? That was great. You hit that one out of the park. Oh man.
I loved her. I thought we were gonna see a lot more of her. We don't. All we
I
find out
missed her.
later is that she thinks that Terry is weird.
Yeah, that's like a consistent thing. And she even says like, I think there's something a little weird about him, but whatever.
Amanda always thought that he was weird, but I said, it's great that we're getting a lot of this stuff on tape.
The street artists are starting to understand the value in videotaping all this stuff.
Right.
Because what's starting to happen is that regular humans are starting to understand the value of street art. So they're putting stuff up and then it's being stolen or destroyed or whatever
Or
within
painted
days.
over,
Or painted
like
over.
the
Right.
authorities, the man, right? The man comes and just puts out all the fun.
So Shepard, the thing I also love is that even though Shepard is tolerating him because he sort of needs him, he doesn't like this guy. Like he's so constantly annoyed by him.
He's always like, you understand why you can't do that, right?
Keep your eye out for the cops. I finally did train him to not turn the light on while I was on a billboard or a rooftop, or he was going to blow my cover. No, don't use that.
Yeah.
One of the best instances of Shepard just being annoyed with him is when they come to New York and poor Shepard Fairey is like, he's on the street like in Chinatown trying to like tag a building and there's like
In the middle of the day.
I know.
On a gigantic ladder.
Don't film from that side. Film from this side over here. You understand why, right? Because you're going to attract attention.
so what happens?
He like falls off the ladder, the poor guy.
But then they go to Paris, and this was like crazy because Terry's talking now about how like he's getting into the groove of it, he's understanding his role, and he like is following Shepard out a window, like 8 stories
I
up.
know.
But I would do it because I wanted to show that I could do it. You know, it was not like I'm downstairs and you upstairs doing your thing and I'm filming. No.
They're climbing onto a roof, and like Shepard's got like a bucket in his teeth, and like they're climbing with a rope, and then Terry's like, "Oh, but I climbed higher than him." You see him climbing on a telephone pole.
Yeah.
And I would go even up more to have the shot that is great.
Pause for a minute. He's telling all these artists that he's filming this
Yes.
for a documentary.
But he said it in a way that was like Shepard Fairey's like, why, like, it's been 10 months. Why are you still filming me? And he just wants to film these guys. But he's like, what? I'm making a documentary.
Yeah, he's like kind of getting caught a little.
Yeah.
Because they're starting to wonder, like, you're just a hassle to have around. Like, it's cool that you have this footage, but like, I want the footage of myself tagging things too.
Exactly.
And making street art too. So like, what is
Right.
happening here?
Exactly.
All the tape that I filmed, even if it was good, it was going nowhere. When it was filmed, for me, it was done. It wasn't important how it was made. It was important what it was. It was the capturation.
Terry takes us into his warehouse. What do we see?
Just boxes and boxes and boxes and boxes and boxes and boxes of completely unorganized videotapes.
What do you think he would say about that?
God bless this mess. And he... Of course he would.
I want that to be our signature.
And he was just like, here's the thing. Like, when I film something, it's over. No organization to it. The reason, just real quick, too, the reason Terry says that he has this outlook on life is because when he was 11, his mom died.
Yeah, we learned some sad shit about this guy.
Yeah, but he didn't know that his mom was sick, so it was kept from him.
Yeah.
The youngest in a large family, his mother's illness had been kept from Terry. And after her death, the sense that he had missed such an important event stayed with him.
So he realized that like he has to live in every moment and he wants to document things and not have anything really sprung on him again. So if he documents it, he's in it.
Totally.
So that's his motivation for doing that.
Every time we talk a little bit more about it, I'm like, this is all bullshit.
Well, enter Banksy.
Right.
While this is happening with Terry, and he's all over the world, Banksy is becoming a
super
complete
famous
phenomenon.
Yeah, he's very prolific also, and so if Shepard Fairey is doing like stickers and stuff and sort of like plastering things to walls, like Banksy's like getting famous for his stencils.
Right. Yeah. So the big thing that really catapults him is the West Bank.
Oh my God,
art.
this is insane. You see military soldiers with rifles,
right.
and people are just like staring at him, and he like puts a ladder up and he like tags this wall in broad daylight.
He faced Israeli army fire to pull off his latest stunt. Subversive graffiti artist Banksy, whose work usually...
By targeting the world's most notorious wall, Banksy turned a spot of hit-and-run vandalism into an international news event.
So yeah, Terry's like, I'm never gonna meet Banksy. Like, it's over. He's so elusive. It's just not gonna happen.
And he's reaching out to all of it. But it's also that thing of like, if anybody in the world has the connections to meet Banksy, it's this guy.
Right.
Because he knows every street artist, and it shouldn't be that hard.
Right.
He was like the only one that I don't have. And people that used to be in street art, they all tell you, yeah, he doesn't have a phone. Or they even if they do have it, they wouldn't give it to me. You know, I didn't know what way that I'm gonna get this person. You know, what angels were gonna bring me to that person.
And then, of course, the super narrator.
Oh my God, I was gonna ask you about him.
Which we haven't even talked about.
Wait, give me the rundown.
He says he's like, miraculously in the spring of 2006, Terry meets Banksy.
And then, miraculously.
Can you explain to the people how this comes to pass?
So, Banksy is coming in. Banksy's from the UK, by the way.
Yeah.
If you guys haven't watched the documentary. So he has this very...
Or you live in a cave.
Right.
No offense, listeners.
Yeah. So Banksy tells the story now, and he's completely in the dark, literally in the dark. His face is messed up.
Oh yeah, he's got that whole
black.
terrifying voice altering thing that gives me nightmares.
And also, I don't know if you noticed, but there's a bottle of something brown by his feet.
I didn't notice, but you fucking go, girl.
Yeah. Yeah, not just like a mixed drink. It was just like, that's a bottle of scotch by Banksy's feet, and
He's like, if I gotta talk about this clown for 2 hours, there better be cocktails.
If I have to act like I'm not a part of this in any way, then I should be hammered.
If I have to act like Banksy isn't Terry,
come on. So Banksy is coming from London to LA, and the guy who was supposed to meet him at the airport and sort of like get him settled in secret, he was stopped at immigration, and that's all we know.
When I got there, the guy that was supposed to be helping me got turned back at immigration, so I rang the only person I knew in Los Angeles and asked them if they could help me.
So then he calls around.
He calls Shepard Fairey.
Right, and he's like, who can help me in LA? And Shepard Fairey's like, not me, this guy Terry. Right. So then Shepard Fairey calls Terry.
Hello, this is Shepard Fairey. How you doing, Terry? Yeah.
And is like, hey, I'm here with Banksy.
Yeah, do you have any wall? Because I have Banksy here, and I would like... And I said, what? You have who? I'm like, yeah, there is Banksy here. And I'm like, where are you?
And Terry reacts... Now, if this is real, Terry reacts exactly the way I would.
100%.
Which is like this.
So Shepard's like, hey, I'm standing here. Like, Banksy is right here, right now. Can you come hang? And there's just now like a Terry-shaped hole in the wall. And he leaves and he speeds. He's like, I didn't give a shit about red lights.
Red light, I stay. I go through the red light. I was driving like crazy. I mean, I'm lucky I didn't get caught that day.
So then... Once he's there, and the thing is, Terry, I think I have no chill for the most part. Terry has negative chill because he meets Banksy.
So this guy shows up looking like something out of the 1860s with these like huge sideburns, sweating.
No. And again, like according to the story, he gives Banksy a phone, puts $100 worth of credit on it, and is just like, I'm at your beck and call whenever you want.
What do you want? Anything you want. What do you want? I drive you if you need to go anywhere. I'll take care of you, whatever. I'll be your driver. I'm not doing anything. I'm not doing anything. I'm not doing anything and anytime.
And I will say this is like the one thing that does support the idea that if this guy Terry is an actor, he's a great actor because he really like does seem to be reliving the moment of like meeting Banksy and how I mean, it was everything he ever wanted.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Well, I think there's a very good chance that up until a certain point, it's all very real. So then Banksy, like again, this super elusive guy who doesn't trust anybody, just starts trusting Terry.
Right, of course.
And it's like, come to London, let's video everything. Because even more now, things are starting to disappear overnight.
I always avoided cameras because what I do is in a bit of a legal grey area, but I brought Terry over to London because it seemed like a good idea to start videoing the work. I mean, we had to because, you know, a lot of it was starting to disappear the next day.
So I understand what Banksy's saying where he just really wants this documented. But according to Banksy, all of his friends are like, dude,
yeah,
what are you doing letting this guy in with a camera filming your every move into his studio? I mean, really?
The first time Terry was filming Banksy, it was like, what the fuck is going on? I thought, you know, that nobody was allowed to do this. I felt it was a big breach of security.
I want to say, like, thank God he did because, so one of the big pieces, and this has stuck with me since the first time I saw the movie, is that phone booth. That phone booth is because Banksy is so much more than just a stenciler. Like
Absolutely.
he really works with these. Like he's like a sculptor. And this phone booth, we see him welding this phone. It's incredible.
Yeah.
It's such a cool like pull the curtain open, which again is probably why Banksy just made this goddamn movie.
100%.
And also, you see the operation that they have. So they have this. He's got the dealer. He's got the workers, and that's foreshadowing for what happens with Terry in the end.
Yeah.
But they also have these like utility trucks that they use to transport Banksy's stuff. It's the coolest operation.
Yeah, it's very cool.
And you see they like put this phone booth down and they sort of scatter, and then Terry stays and like sees the people's reactions to it. And as you said, where are these people from?
They're all straight out of Mary Poppins. They just are.
They are the nerdiest people. The one old man who's like,
you know Banksy?
Yeah.
You know Banksy?
I don't know. I mean,
he does very, very good graffiti.
I love that everyone's like, don't you know who Banksy
Yeah,
is?
exactly.
Like, it's a very, he just sort of broke through. It wasn't just the street art world anymore. It was,
well, and then there's like this one like art douche on the street who's like,
Looks a bit like Banksy, but I know he's doing a bit more installations at the moment.
oh, is he? Okay, fine.
but then Terry follows like a lady down the street to get her reaction. And what does she have to say?
You just have to play it. I can't do it any justice at all. At all.
Someone is annoyed with BT telephones.
So when Terry gets back to the workshop with the video, that's when Banksy is like, oh, he's proven his worth.
I guess Terry showed up at a time when I realised that the reaction to this stuff was, you know, one of the most interesting things about it. Because for me, it's an important part of the job to run away as soon as we've done it. But at least with Terry, we had someone hanging around afterwards who could capture some of it. So yeah, he proved his worth on that project, brought something to it that we would never have had otherwise.
So he goes back to LA, right?
Yeah, so he realizes that being Banksy is probably a pretty cool gig.
Totally.
So he wants to, I guess, try his hand at that. And he gets a sticker made that is a picture of himself with the camera, and it's transparent, so it looks like a stencil.
Right.
And now he's jumping in on the bandwagon. He's putting the sticker everywhere. He has, like, massive copies of it. He's trying to do,
He
like,
goes
what
to Kinko's and gets, like, the huge things made.
Yeah, like the poor man Shepherd Ferry.
I start to make copies, make it bigger, and starting to put it all around the city. The enjoyment of taking the glue and making the thing and going, I was like addict. It was like a spiral, and I just fall in it.
But then he goes and like plasters over the actual Shepherd Ferry that he helped him put up.
Right.
I was like, I had to rewind that. I was
know.
like, that is a baller move.
Yeah, that's a
no
dick move.
wonder Miss Shepherd Ferry is sour grapes to this
No,
guy.
that is a dick move.
Totally.
Total. I'm on Team Shepherd Ferry with that one for sure.
I am always on Team Shepherd Ferry.
Well,
I was just like so happy to see the wife again because I was like, finally, for the first time in like the whole movie, she's like, hi, over here. Like, you've got a family and you've got like kids. But she doesn't say it in a naggy way at all. She literally looks at the camera. She's like, yeah, I married this nightmare. I just wanted to remember that we love him and we miss him.
Yep.
You know?
I worry. I worry for my kids. I worry for everybody, actually. But he doesn't care. He just goes and does. And he forgets he comes with a family. You know, just... We need him.
So it's like 6 months later, and Banksy has a big show planned in LA, right?
It's called Barely Legal.
Right.
Kind of a great layered name.
Yeah. And while they're getting ready, he decides, like, it's around the time of September 11th, and there's all this stuff happening with Guantanamo Bay, and he decides he wants to, like, install a protest art.
Make a statement.
Make a statement. So they decide they're going to do this in Disneyland.
Right.
And he...
Is there any other place you would stage an installation about Guantanamo Bay?
No, hell no.
Other than next to the little kiddie roller coaster at Disneyland?
So we see Terry, where is the derpy derpy music? This whole bit is like so derpy.
And it's again like right in front of your face, everybody. Like,
yeah. So
look up from your phone and look around because shit is happening.
Know. That is so... Look around. So they come into Disneyland, they get in line, and they buy tickets. And you see, this blew my mind. You see Banksy buying his ticket from somebody.
Can I get 2 adults just for Disneyland, please?
$2 is your change and your 2 Disneyland tickets.
Somebody saw he couldn't have been disguising his face to buy his tickets, right?
No.
So, I mean, there's a lot of questions here because you know that Disneyland is like covered in security cameras.
Right.
They must have been able to roll that footage back and see what this guy looks like.
Well, later on, he says that he like ducks into the bathroom to change his clothes.
Yeah.
So he's a little aware of that.
So they're walking around and Banksy sees a sign that says,
"This will be a great place to take your souvenir photo." So that obviously seemed like the best place to put him.
Oh, right. So he's like, it's a great place to stick a Guantanamo Bay dummy.
So this is terrifying. We are watching this from Terry's perspective, and Terry is like, he is appropriately concerned because like Banksy like goes and sits down on a bench and starts blowing up this like, think Orange is the New Black outfit, like suit dummy.
Yeah.
And then
with their head covered in that black. Oh, it's so
back.
horrifying.
I know.
He goes in a corner and starting to blow up to pump a doll.
So he climbs the fence, goes into this like cactus area.
You guys, it's 1:30 in the afternoon.
It's broad daylight. It is crawling with Republican tourists
and their children.
And so he just like walks over, and then Terry's like, this guy was taking forever.
And he attached it to the metal bars, and it takes time.
And then you see people are like looking over, like, what is this? And like, what's happening?
Yeah.
And then he like walks out and doesn't run. He doesn't panic.
And then I walked off one way and left Terry there filming it.
I think it takes like 35 seconds for them to be like, we're stopping the ride, everybody.
And you hear it like Terry, of course, has it on camera. Like, don't panic, but here are the Mickey Mouse police. And then it cuts to Banksy, and he's like, I went on the Indiana Jones ride, and then I went on Pirates of the Caribbean.
I went in the toilets, I changed my hat, I changed my shirt. Then I went out and I went on the Indiana Jones ride, and then when I came off that, I tried calling Terry, didn't get any answer, so then I went on Pirates of the Caribbean.
Meanwhile, Terry's like, I was walking towards the exit, and like the men in black, like a pounced on him.
It was like 1, and then 2, and then 3, and then 4.
I'm walking to leave. 1 guy is behind me, 2 guys behind me, 3 guys behind me, 4 guys behind me. And one moment, bam, 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 from every corner, they hold me.
And so they detain him, ironically, for 4 hours and question him. And according to Terry, what happens is that he like fake erases the footage on his camera. They're like, what's on your camera? And he's like, nothing. I don't know this person. I have no idea what's going on. And so then he explains that like, he was like, but I'm totally lying to them. I'm completely lying. I, of course, know who this person is. I have hours of footage on my camera. But he, like, pretends, he, like, convinces them that he erases all the footage. He's like, I went to the menu instead.
He's like, okay, show me the pictures. I take the camera. I said, look, I go in menu right away. I go and delete, and I go, and the thing goes, and I go, bam, I put it down, and I said, I don't have any picture on him, and I don't have any proof on you.
And how did he get the actual tape out of there?
He stuffed it in his sock.
When did you do that, Terry?
Right.
When did you stuff the tape in your sock?
I just don't get it.
No, because so you're filming and then you leave. You failed to mention that you then stuffed the tape in your sock and then put new tape in so there would be pictures to erase.
Yeah.
Like, when did you do that, Terry?
The timeline is very, very murky, to say the least. But because of this, Banksy, like, now totally trusts Terry completely.
So after Terry withstood interrogation from the entire Mickey Mouse security team, didn't fold, didn't buckle, he did a really good job of stashing the tape in his sock. I guess I trusted Terry with everything. He was my guy after that.
Because he didn't snap under the pressure. He was smart enough to put the tape in his sock. It's like, everyone take us. We get it. This commercial's really great, but it's really long.
So then they go back to the party. Of course, Banksy isn't there. Or is he?
Is he?
So I was going to ask you about this, about the elephant, about what your thoughts on the elephant were.
The actual elephant in the room?
Yeah.
Which was the point. That was like the statement he was making. So Banksy has this elephant who he has painted with children's face paint to camouflage and be the same pattern as the wallpaper in the room.
Yeah.
So there's literally an elephant in the room.
And the news is all upset about it.
Yeah.
But the American news media could only see what was right in front of them and came flocking to report on the elephant in the room.
I'm Angie Crouch. Coming up at 5:30, animal rights activists are outraged over an art exhibit involving a live painted elephant.
An elephant in the room. A problem.
I mean, I hope that he took care of the elephant. I hate seeing that. I hate thinking that, like, was this elephant not treated well? I didn't like that. They didn't go into that.
Yeah.
Banksy wasn't like, hey, so I had a handler and everything was all good.
But you see Banksy in the background. Do you remember that part where Banksy is actually, they blur Banksy's face, but he's there attending to the elephant and like no one's paying any attention.
Yeah, and somewhere like Angelina Jolie and Brad Pitt, literally, you guys.
Right, Christina Aguilera.
Like everybody, like what's his, Ewan McGregor, I think.
Right,
is there.
totally.
And it's just like everyone in the universe is there, and Banksy's like, hey guys.
Yeah, and no one's paying any attention.
Next to the elephant in the room. Get it?
Exactly.
Layers upon layers upon layers.
So it's 6 months later, and Terry's bouncing on a trampoline.
What else would he be doing? It's not like he has kids to take care of or a fake documentary to keep up. It's like he doesn't have anything to do.
Well, because at this point, so Banksy makes the point that like since Banksy's big show, and now like we're seeing like Sotheby's and Christie's and all these auction houses. His actual phone booth that he made went for $550,000, and Banksy's like,
for who? Where is it?
I know.
Who has the space to put that anywhere?
I know. And so Banksy's like, well, this was never about the money. This was always just about the art and the fun and the mischievousness of it. And the only person who has the documentary evidence of that is Terry. So Terry, it's time for you to go. You're a filmmaker. Go make your documentary.
Right.
Suddenly it all became about the money, but it never was about the money. So I said to Terry, right, you have the footage. You can tell the real story of what this art is about. It's not about the hype. It's not about the money. Now is the time. You need to get your film out.
Terry's like, cool. Now I'm jumping on a trampoline.
Right, because Terry's like, oh, I had no plans to make a documentary. So this is a little weird for me because now I have to like pretend, like find a vision and just like put all the shit together. So what he does is make like the worst documentary ever. Banksy, I love fake or real. I don't care if this is part of the prank. I love how much Banksy hates this fucking documentary.
It's terrible.
It's called Life Remote Control, which is like enough. And Banksy just says it was an hour and a half of nonsense. It was like someone clicking through a cable box of 900 channels, which is exactly accurate.
Yeah. It's a very dystopian, like, it's the kind of thing that, like, they tie you to a chair and cut your eyelids off and make you watch on a loop.
100 zillion%. And Banksy's like...
It was at that point I realised that maybe Terry wasn't actually a filmmaker and he was maybe just someone with mental problems who happened to have a camera.
So Banksy's big idea is he's like, you know what? I've never made a documentary before, but I need this documentary to be made.
So I thought, maybe I could have a go. I mean, I don't know how to make a film, but obviously that hadn't stopped Terry, but I needed him out of the way in order to do it. So I said, why don't you go and put up some more of your posters and make some art, have a little show.
And Terry falls for it. Terry's like, okay, that's a great idea. Like, this is all nonsense. The more I talk about it, the more I'm like, this is all ridiculous.
Right, and then it becomes the big, whatever, we'll get there. So Terry's like, great, like an assignment? Awesome.
Banksy had just given him what he considered to be a direct order to put down his camera and become a street artist himself.
I think he put me into street art because I like what he did. Me as respecting him, you know, having him to push you to do street art, I just went and like, it was not even a push, it was like an enjoyment to get pushed, you know.
And so then Terry now decides that all art is about brainwashing. So now he's Mr. Brainwash, or
So
AKA
stupid.
MBW.
Obey is about brainwashing. Banksy is about brainwashing. So I use MBW, and I am Mr. Brainwash.
In pursuit of putting on this big art show, he's like, I have to do the miniature version of what all these other now big stars did. So I have to like run all over LA and like put up all these like ridiculous art things and tag everything, and I'm Mr. Brainwash and whatever. And so like it's so stupid, and he's an idiot. He spills paint all over his truck, and he's just a dummy.
Yeah, and he remortgages his house, his business, he sells everything.
When Banksy had suggested to Terry that he make some art, he could never have imagined just how far things would go.
have a month and a half.
Terry had now remortgaged his business and sold off whatever he could to invest in a huge studio, screen printing equipment, and a full-time staff capable of producing MBW pieces on a commercial scale.
He's like, now if I'm going to do this art show, I'm going to do the grandest art show in the world. He hires a staff of like 12 people.
This like full service, massive screen printing studio.
Right.
And it's just like,
Yeah.
your 4 kids
and
are,
your
like,
poor wife.
Hi, like,
right,
what is
exactly.
happening?
And so we go inside his world a little bit, because his whole thing is like, well, I'm not going to deign to make the art. I'm going to come with the idea, and they're going to make it for me.
And they do.
And they do.
Terry goes through the books, he finds the paintings that he likes, and he comes up with the ideas on what to change them. And we scan the image and then in Photoshop.
And then we see him just working towards this major art show.
Life is beautiful.
And it's all a nightmare.
Terry also falls off a ladder and breaks his foot. So there's this image of him, like, of someone that he hired pushing him around in a wheelbarrow. This is fake. Like, we get it. He's a zany, kooky guy who just, like, I understand it. It's a little heavy-handed, Banksy. I usually love your work, but it's a little heavy-handed. In this disgusting, dirty cast, by the way. It's fucking
His
vile.
foot is turning
It's
green.
disgusting, but art. So then even, like, Banksy hears, like, oh, he broke his foot. This is a mess. So Banksy, like, throws him a promoter. Like, Banksy's promoter
Yeah, totally.
is now involved in Life is Beautiful just to make it really work well.
Myself and my girlfriend Sonia went down there, and we figured out what he needed, along with a few of the show's other producers. We made lists of what needed to happen. I was very curious how the hell he was actually going to finish it and pull it off, and realized he didn't have a clue of a lot of the final logistics that needed to happen.
So then, what's his name? Terry reaches out to Shepard Fairey to get a quote. And this is where we see Miss Shepard Fairey is just in a bad mood about the whole thing.
He's like, I didn't want to do it.
He asked me to promote the show for him, to give him a quote for a press release, to send it to my mailing list, to post it on my website, and really to validate what he was doing. And I was uncomfortable with that, but I said that I would do it.
And then he gets a quote from Banksy, and Banksy's like, oh, what's the harm in sending a quote?
Well, I didn't think there was any harm in it, so I wrote him a sentence and I emailed it off.
But Banksy could never have guessed what Terry had in mind for his modest contribution.
He blows up this quote like the size of half a building and like drapes it over the side of a building.
It's a perfect, don't tell me, Banksy, you didn't know exactly what you were doing. The quote is, Mr. Brainwash is a force of nature. He's a phenomenon. And I don't mean that in a good way. Right. That is phenomenal. Yeah.
Can someone say that about this podcast, please?
That is a perfect endorsement. Banksy, don't for a second try to act like you did not know exactly what you were doing.
So then that press, of course, the LA Times come and they do a story on it, and then but the whole time you're seeing it, like it's a mess. Like he rents out like 15,000 square feet in the old CBS offices, And it's just a mess. It's
the
like
walls are empty. Nobody has anything. Then
Right.
at one point he's just like, "You listen to me now," and it's like, "Well, fucking tell us where you want your gallery. It opens in 4 seconds."
Right. So it's the day of the show, y'all. And it's
Totally.
and it's like 8 hours to go. Nothing's on the walls. He freaks out.
The pressure was starting to show.
Okay, there is one thing. We're gonna have a meeting one day. Starting now, this second, I'm running the show. You're not giving order to anybody right now. I'm running the show. You listen to me. Okay? Anybody's listening to me now. Okay?
I wrote in all caps. I was like, I kind of like the art he's making. Like, I'm kind of into it.
I did like the one. I liked Bat Poppy. That one I really liked. He was like, it's like before Batman, it's his poppy. It's like Bat Poppy.
Bat Papi. 1893. It's before Batman. It's Bat Papi. You know, the Papi is the grandfather of Batman.
But it's you guys, if you haven't watched it, it's just like one of those old timey photos from the 1800s where it's like all brown, and it's just I was just like, all right.
So like whatever, the art thing opens and it's gangbusters. He makes like $1 million. He literally sells $1 million that night. It was supposed to be open for 5 days. It stays open for 2 months. Like he sells every last piece.
Yeah.
Life is Beautiful stayed open for a further 2 months. And as word about MBW spread, his pieces appeared in galleries and shows around the world, from Miami and New York to London, Paris, and even Beijing.
Well, and this is what's so cool in the end is that so if street art was meant to turn the art world on its head, then which it did, then Terry turned the street art world on its head. And Banksy has this great line where he's like,
I don't think Terry played by the rules in some ways, but then there aren't supposed to be any rules.
The other great Banksy quote is where he's like,
he's kind of the rightful heir to Andy Warhol, in a way. Andy Warhol made a statement by repeating famous icons until they became meaningless, but he was extremely iconic in the way that he did it. But then Terry really made them meaningless.
My other one is because the last 10 minutes is just like everyone throwing shade at this guy. There's no one like Terry, even if his art does look like everybody else's.
Yeah.
Ooh, burn, Banksy.
And Shepard Fairey, of course, has a quote because she is pissed.
How do I feel about being partially responsible for creating Mr. Brainwash? I feel like I had the best intentions. I think even when you have the best intentions, sometimes things can go awry. To put a huge body of work together and sort of try to, come out as if he is a fully formed artist ready for the world stage, I think was a little premature.
He calls Terry's collectors suckers. He's like, if these suckers want to buy this art, like that's on them or whatever. But hey, I'm just like, oh man, Shep, you're doing great, man.
I know.
Even if the Associated Press is suing you for your awesome Obama image.
That's true.
Banksy's really, I guess, I think it's the last quote of the movie is he says he used to encourage everyone he met to create and make art.
I mean, I always used to encourage everyone I met to make art. I used to think everyone should do it. I don't really do that so much anymore.
You guys, thank you so much for listening to yet another episode.
Thanks.
You guys, please keep those iTunes reviews coming. We're trying to get to 200. That's our dream.
That would be amazing.
And we love you so much.
Yeah.
What are we doing next, girl?
We are doing Captivated, The Trials of Pamela Smart.
Yes, we are. I remember this trial like it was yesterday.
Really?
I do. Because I grew up in the area-ish.
Oh.
Yeah. So it was a big deal everywhere, but it was like a really big deal where I grew up.
I haven't watched this since it came out. I'm excited to revisit it.
Yeah. You guys follow us on Twitter. We're at True Crime Obsess.
No ED, but you know what does have an ED?
What, girl?
The website, truecrimeobsessed.com.
Here's the trailer for Captivated, The Trials of Pamela Smart, and stay tuned for our outtakes after the promo.
Oh boy.
There's someone passed out. I don't know. A girl is hysterical in here. She just ran over. Her husband is passed out.
Do you know why he's passed out there, ma'am?
Help is on the way. Do you know why he's passed out? No, we don't know.
May 1st, 1990, 24-year-old Gregory Smart has been shot in the head. His wife, Pamela Smart, is accused of plotting her husband's death. You got anything to say this morning? Are you involved in this murder? She plotted the murder of her husband along with 3 teenage boys. All along, she has said she would welcome the start of her trial so she could prove her innocence. Well, Pamela Smart is about to get her wish.
This is going to be the first trial ever covered live on television.
No one had ever seen a television show where you watched real life play out in real time.
There's no soap opera to this. It's real stuff.
Nothing happens, and it's totally fascinating.
Litigation as entertainment was just exploding, and it exploded through this trial.
From Boston, from New Hampshire, from all over New England. And then it's national news. In fact, around the world is trying to cover this story. It is gigantic.
That all of New Hampshire, if not the nation, is inflamed at the appearance of Pamela Smart.
So light back on.
Terry reacts now. If this is real, Terry reacts exactly the way I would, which is like this. We have to play the Schuyler sisters.
Yeah. That's what he does. So then Terry.
Wait, why is that the best moment on the entire cast album?
Because it's insane.
It's so good.
And it's also like, where's Peggy, everybody? She was in the first round of the Schuyler sisters. Like, where the fuck is Peggy? There was at one point someone I knew who's like, I know who Banksy is. I was like, no, shut your face up. Like, no, you don't.
I want a name. Who told you that?
I'm not going to say who it is. But someone was like, no, he went into this shop that I'm like, no, he didn't.
Yeah.
Because he's not going to be like, hi, everybody, I'm Banksy. Hello. Like, that is not a thing that he does.
He's like, I finally trained him not to turn the camera on at 2 a.m. when I'm on a rooftop vandalizing.
This bright light. He's like, dude.
With the light.
With the light. Just try to keep it under wraps, man.
It's like he turns on the camera. He's like, we're up here.
Yeah. Hey, everybody.
Banksy points out that the reaction to the work is maybe the most important thing about the work, but they never get to see it.
Yes.
So now he gets to see it.
Right.
Which again is why he probably just had this fucking movie made.
And it's a commercial for Banksy.
Yeah.
So look up from your phone and look around because shit is happening.
That is so... Look around, look around.
History is happening.
In Manhattan. In Disneyland.